Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Taurus. Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of October 2025. I hope you're well. I'm using the Tarot of the Abyss for you today. Before we get started, if the reading resonates with you and you would like to go a little bit deeper, there will be an extended that you can access at the end. That's via the first link in the description box below. You're looking for the link that takes you to Selfie. Alternatively, you can come join my private community, the Order of the Phoenix, over on the Circle platform. There you can get access to all of the extended content for no extra cost beyond the membership fee. Hang out with an extraordinary group of people. See the weekly energy readings that I do over there. Yeah, and if you join at the higher tier, you can come participate in the live classes that we run over there too, in all sorts of things. Magic from all sorts of different perspectives, tarot, numerology, and all sorts of things. So, yeah. Wildlife crashing around outside. So if that sounds like it might be of interest to you, you know what to do with that link, Taurus. So let's flip this around and see what's going on with you. I have a suspicion. Let's wait and see what the cards have to say. Could I have 3 cards for Taurus, please? There we go. The first one is the 8 of Swords in your recent past. What about current energy for Taurus, please? 7 of Swords in reverse. Interesting. And what about what's coming towards Taurus for October, please? Thank you. We have 2 cards, and they are the 4 of Swords and the 9 of Wands. Interesting. At the bottom of the deck, we've got that 7 of Cups. I saw when I waved the deck at you before. The first thing that you will notice is that there is no major arcana on the table. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, Taurus, because I think, to be honest, it looks like you've had enough going on as it is. And I feel like there is, although it's not specifically stated on the table, when I connected with your energy, I did feel like there was a sharp pushing out of intrusive things. I think that's the best way to put how I felt. Yeah, let's get you this deck out of here. Mayhap this will come out in the clarifying cards, but you'll notice that you're pretty mind heavy at the moment, Taurus. We've got the 8 of Swords, the 7 of Swords, and the 4 of Swords. I like the fact that they're showing up in this order. I think that this is the better order that they could have shown up in. But there is an instruction here also in the 9 of Wands to guard your energy. I don't really know how else to put it. To guard your energy, and I think perhaps what it is that is being swept away like that, which is very much the message that I got from the point where I connected with your energy. Just a big no. Is about the assertion of boundaries with no guilt, no shame, and definitely no remorse, because there's some fuckery here that's happened, Taurus, and I'm not sure if the fuckery's happened in your own head or whether it's somebody else is bringing it to the table. But 7 of Cups as a card for, you know, the underlying energy of the moment across all of the cards suggests that you don't really know how you feel about something. It's almost like there's been someone who has been repeatedly transgressing your boundaries, and you've kind of allowed it to happen because you weren't sure if they were actually doing it or not, which is very interesting. But let me stop talking and get some clarifiers out for these cards on the table, and then we'll see what's going on. Tell me about the 8 of Swords, please. For Taurus, why is the 8 of Swords? Well, okay, super. We've got the Knight of Cups, and we've got the 8 of Wands. That card's been coming out a lot for people this month. That's interesting. Tell me about the 7 of Swords. What does Taurus need to know about that? About the 7 of Swords? Right. You know, the sharp flick away. Tower energy all day long, that. Tell me about the 4 of Swords and the 9 of Wands. Thank you. First card, 4 of Cups. Interesting. Ace of Swords. Like that very much. That's a good card to come out here with all of this. And 2 of Wands. Right. Here you are, Taurus, at the bottom of the deck as the Hierophant. For some reason, I feel like you're not feeling much of a Hierophant at the moment. I mean, if you look at these two cards together in tandem, we've got a sense that it's almost like you've kind of lost contact with that Hierophant part of you, right? That can be absolutely rigid in something. But we'll get to that in a second. So let me put these straight because, Saturn in Virgo. And if I don't put it straight, then I'll start having cats. Not kittens, but literal cats. So here we go. This is what we're looking at in terms of the energy as has been, is, and will be over, probably 6 weeks back from now to about 4 weeks forwards from here, right? There is, as has been true for all of the signs, a kind of longer story that is unfolding here for you. And I think what's really interesting about that is the sense that all of us are starting to get, and I do think it's right across the board, that there's much more going on here. There has been much more going on in 2025, both within ourselves, immediately outside of ourselves, and, out there, TM, than we have been really aware of. And there is a sense that this is all starting to synthesize now in this awareness of a bigger story, although we still can't quite see it yet. That is starting to play out over the course of October. So we start with where you have been, and like I said, that actually could be this morning, or it could be when you got out, 6 weeks back from where we are right now. But the energy is the Eight of Swords. Now, this is very uncomfortable energy because it speaks of a feeling of being trapped, being stuck, right? Not really being able to see the way forward. In fact, a way forward being, would be a lovely thing to experience right now, but there is no aspect of that anywhere that we can really put our hands on. Now, the Eight of Swords for me is a very special card, because being an 8, it does let us know that the problem and the solution are kind of wrapped up in the same parcel here, and it takes a little bit of pulling apart to see what needs to be shifted, because you are never truly stuck. I think after 6 years with me, Taurus, the Tauruses can attest to the fact that you're never really stuck. You're always one decision away from opening doors for yourself and whatnot, right? But the sense with the Eight of Swords is that we kind of thought ourselves into a corner. And we thought ourselves into a corner because there's a certain way of being that we have taken for granted, we've assumed needs to remain as it is. It's been unchallenged in our head, and we kind of skirted over the top of it. And it's corralled us into this cul-de-sac now, where we don't really have the opportunity to move forwards at all. We are quite literally bound. But we see here that she's bound quite loosely, right? So she can get her hands free. If she can get her hands free, then she can get the blindfold free, and then she's able to, properly work out where she is and how to move away from these swords that have trapped her in position. It's a very empowering card, actually. But it does, like I said, speak to that mental stuckness. Now, what is the mental stuckness around? It's around the Knight of Cups. It's got involved in it somewhere the idea of service. And I say that because the Knight of Cups is a Pisces card. Pisces is a sign of service. But where the Knight of Cups shows up, it's about the way that we give our cup to other people, right? So it's the people around us that we care about, we love, we want to help. Where they, or just be around, right? We'll just be around, be useful, be of service to them in a way that we perceive them being of service to us too. And we don't have that same feeling when it's people who are, not, that we don't know, right? Or maybe we do sometimes, right? We see somebody who's kind of looking at a map and just being like, I have no idea. You're right, mate. Do you need a hand? Yeah, where am I? You're right there. There you go. Thank you very much. You're welcome. Let me shut that window. It's almost conceptually service rather than how it's actually playing out. But I think that the actual playing out is really quite important to what is happening here, right? Because it's accompanied with another 8. So another card of power and empowerment, and where does the power lie and all that kind of thing. But here now with the additional meaning of Amplification, acceleration, an increase in momentum. Now, if you've got an increase in momentum, if you've got an amplification of an energy that is corralling you into somewhat of a mental cul-de-sac, then what you've got is something that is acting as a catalyst for a period of peak discomfort when you realise something that you did not see before. Because it's the absence of that realisation that is the thing that's making you feel like you don't have any choice but to stand exactly still and where you are. And I do think it is around the idea of service. Now, I keep banging on about this, but whether it's caring duties or whether it's relationships that you've got with friends, with work colleagues, with members of your family, whatever, there is something here. And now, almost like the TLDR of this reading is, you did not realise consciously, but you absolutely have realised subconsciously that some aspect of this is deeply imbalanced and you don't really want to participate in it anymore. I feel like there's a conscious mind override that's going on that says, oh, well, no, I have to. What else am I going to do? What else would they do but rely on me? But there's something kind of dicey about this whole situation. And I'm not sure what it is. It isn't necessarily that it's falsehood and people lying to you and all that kind of thing. But like the idea that what appears to be isn't quite what it is seems to ripple right the way through this reading. So tell me about this Knight of Cups, please. Thank you. We've got 2 cards there. We've got the Queen of Pentacles and we've got the Judgment card. Very interesting, because now we also have the 5 of Wands at the bottom of the deck. Now the 5 of Wands is conflict. And that conflict does not have to be betwixt you and another person. In fact, I would say, looking at these cards here, it is deeply nothing to do with you and another person. Exactly. The conflict is internal. So, like I said, your subconscious mind has picked something up and it doesn't really like it. Your conscious mind has overridden it. These two are now in conflict. They are not pulling in the same direction. The Judgment card is often a card that comes up when we have retrogrades, because it can speak to the resurfacing of situations that we thought were done and gone and dealt with. Right, whether those are with people and actual outside situations, or whether they are repetitions of patterns that resurface, that say, are you really looking after yourself right now? Are you actually seeing the value in yourself, or is there something else going on? Because you feel to me to be fundamentally conflicted on a very, very deep level. Not necessarily about what you should do, but the ways in which you are showing up for people. I wonder if you have been showing up a little bit too much for people, Taurus, because the Knight of Cups is always in this state of giving, but the Queen of Pentacles understands that it's important that she understands that she too needs to be a recipient of some sort of care, and you don't feel to me like you're getting it, right? Not at all. So the Judgment card can also talk about the decisions that we've made for ourselves, right? And the way that life plays out off the back of those decisions. And it seems like, although you resolved a very long time ago to look after yourself properly and all that sort of thing, what we're doing is reaching a point where we recognise very quickly that somehow our good nature has been taken advantage of, and the subconscious doesn't like it because the subconscious knows better. But at the same time, the conscious mind is being all like, well, we have to do that. It's important. We ought to do that. We should do that. All those parenting words that we don't necessarily like too much. The inevitable consequence is you're going to end up in that cul-de-sac where now you're stuck and you're trapped, right? Perhaps you've overcommitted and now, there's no way you're going to allow yourself to under-deliver. That whole aspect of this is really quite interesting, because it does speak to there also being something still compromised in the subconscious that's leading us to assume that we have to show up this way rather than a way that takes care of us, that understands our own value and all that sort of thing, right? Capricorn versus Scorpio and Aries, I think, with the Judgment card, right? So things have been quite difficult there. in the recent past. But in your current energy, this seems to be where all of the big kind of explosive energy is going on, right? I'm going to say explosive because it's Tower card energy, where we've got that sudden change, that sudden no, not doing that, right? Because there seems to be a point of realization that is occurring here that was absent there, but is coming to the fore here in your current energy, right? So this Seven of Swords is sometimes known as the Thief card, because we have a man there with a dagger in hand, right? Obviously involved in some kind of subterfuge, who looks like he's about to do something a bit shoddy. Now in the Waite Smith, we've got somebody kind of running off with the swords. And it would be very easy to characterize this as somebody who is trying to get away with something, right? This is why it's the Thief card. It's why it also indicates dishonesty, deception, these kinds of things, right? But because there is an inherent polarity, an inherent duality even within each of the tarot cards, they're not all good and they're not all bad. When they show up, we have to make sure that we're looking at both sides of them. And I feel like no, I don't. Oh, that's not what I was going to say. What I was going to say was the other side of this is it's about risk-taking. It's about calculated strategies moving forwards. It's about sometimes taking a gamble on something, because it's quite difficult to input purely malicious intent just on the back of the snapshot that we can see right here, bearing in mind that we know that the cards hold this duality of energy, polarities of energies. Anywho, the thing is, though, this Seven of Swords has shown up in the reverse. And reversed generally speaks to deceptions coming to light, things that have been hidden, things that have been done in the spirit of subterfuge, starting to come up where they can be seen, right? What was inherently dishonest becoming almost more honest by way of its revelation is what this seems like to me. And additionally, we have the Tower showing up. Now, the Hermit card on its side here, I'll be honest, Taurus, means that this is not a purely internal situation. Kind of know that it's not, because a lot of the internal stuff that's going on over here is in response to something that you are dealing with, right? Might not necessarily be day to day, but we're certainly thinking week to week, because there's a weight associated with the energies as they're playing out here. You would not be feeling stuck and trapped if this was something that only showed up on your radar, I don't know, like once a year or something like this. So it's like you are perceiving the weight of this on your shoulders, and some level you know that you are taking on too much. You have taken on too much. Maybe somebody is asking a little bit too much of you, and it feels a little bit like your ability to say no has been compromised, right? We wouldn't have this level of conflict inside if everything was just running smoothly. So we've got the internal stuff going on, but the fact that the Hermit isn't entirely in the upright, saying just you go within all that, means that there is something going on in the external environment that seems to be affecting this. It's feeding into it, and this in the current moment seems to be what is changing. Now, when I say current moment, like these energies play out at different speeds for other people, for everyone, depending on where they are in the process of stuff. For some people, this energy here and everything that it represents could be something that you just thought about having watched a video before mine. Oh, holy shit, just a light bulb moment with things. But for some of you, this could have been 6 weeks ago, and you've been struggling with that, the weight of that, for 6 weeks solid now. In the same way, current energy isn't necessarily me talking to you right here in this moment. This may take another couple of weeks to come in. It may have already come in, right? Just to be clear. Something about everything to do with this situation, all this to do with this situation, is coming to light. It is things that have been obfuscated, obscured, or deliberately concealed, possibly, that play a big part in whether or not you consent, or would have consented, to be playing a part in all of this. Now, the Tower card is sudden, shocking energy. It's associated with the planet Mars, right? So we've got action always being implied without movement. In fact, you can see it in the card. We've got people being knocked out of the tower because of a lightning strike. I think there's something more Uranian about this card. Like, the longer time goes on, the more I feel it's got this Uranian quality, because Mars initiates, doesn't necessarily have a lot of staying power, but it initiates, and it initiates full force. But there's an idea that it can keep going for a little while at least anyway. With Uranus, the energy of Uranus just seems to switch on and off, right? So it's on one day, tower's up, off one day, the tower's up and everything's fine. And then Uranus switches on, tower collapses, it switches off, it goes to do everything else. It's not a consistent energy. Neither is the tower a consistent energy. It's a in the moment, or a sweep out of the way. So whatever's coming to light here is kind of shocking, right? In so much as it wasn't there yesterday, now it's here, right? In the way that Uranus switches on and off. But it feels so deeply connected to what was over here and what has been weighing you down for quite a while, that it's difficult to separate the two. We can't separate the two. They are related. Tell me about this tower, please, for Taurus. We have the Nine of Swords. Interestingly, sword-heavy reading for you. And we have the Ace of Cups. Now, this is very important because we're harking back to, would you really have fucking Nine of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck as well? There is a question as to whether you would have allowed yourself to be swept up in whatever this situation is, had you known, A, how heavy it was going to be, and quite how far away from the essential truth of your value and the value of your time, your effort, your everything, right? Queen of Pentacles. How much of a drain this would be when you said yes. But I do feel like a lot of this has come under rather deceptive means. It's almost like information that would have been useful has been left out. Information that would have had you leaning more towards, sorry, can't get involved in this because I'm busy over here and I don't have the pentacles to spare. It's almost like the information was curated specifically for you, Taurus, to ensure your participation in something. And there is a cost here that you've been paying for quite a long time now. Well, certainly weeks, if not something a little longer. That is causing this, it's almost disconnect in your head between what you know to be true, which is that you are important and you have boundaries and saying no is good and all that kind of thing, and the reality of the situation, which is you're doing something you don't want to be doing right now and you can't quite work out how to pull yourself away from it, hence feeling trapped, right? Now we have the Nine of Swords and the Nine of Pentacles here. This is a card of perspective, and it sort of suggests that the perspective has been lost somewhere because you yourself, your value has been lost somewhere, right? And somebody else seems to be getting the benefit of it. But the Nine of Pentacles here is there's an opportunity for you to pull this back to you. And I think the thing that you've been looking for is, it's not even like you've been looking for it. It's like the thing that's come in, which feels a little bit like the universe going, Taurus, like, this is not yours. The weight of this is not yours. Put it down. Is getting revealed. Somehow giving you the permission to step away from it. Now, obviously, the lesson here is not that you ever that you should wait around and wait for permission, but how easily it is lost, the idea of a sense of self and the idea of you being a completely autonomous and sovereign being, depending on who it is who is approaching you. Because I think if this was just some random, that like this wouldn't have happened. This feels like it's someone very close to you who has been gaining considerable benefit from your participation in something, but hasn't been entirely open or clear about the possibility, A, of an alternative to this situation, which it feels does exist, or the circumstances in which you've been involved in this at all, right? Because this Seven of Swords says there's been something a bit underhand go on here, and now it's being revealed. The Tower is revealing this very, very quickly. This is not a slow drip feed of information. This is kind of like, oh, guess what? You know. And the Hermit, honestly, he actually feels like he doesn't really know what to make of this, really. It's not an internal problem. It's not a solely external problem either, despite the fact that there is some manipulated information that has come into the middle of it all. It's a combination of the two. And I think the best way to see it is a combination of the two, because your energy is more important than ever, Taurus, and if people are trying to take it from you, they'd better have good reason. And you thought they had good reason, but now in retrospect, it's like, as this new information is coming to the surface, it's like, what the fuck? There's a real sense of being taken advantage of here, Taurus, that I'm quite unhappy for you that you're experiencing. But on the other hand, rather, when we come into the energy of October, everything is starting to feel different. Is that the word that I want to use? It is. It's different, right? We have the Four of Swords, and I like that for you very much, because there is a stillness there. It's not the stillness of being held in place and restricted as per the energy of the Eight of Swords. It is I'm choosing to be still. Arguably, maybe I'm choosing to heal. I'm choosing to integrate all this information, right? These are things that we associate with the energy of the Four of Swords. But there is something quite peaceful about where you are right now, because you choose to be there, right? Not restricted, not bound. You're choosing to be there. The Four of Swords quite obviously follows on from the Three of Swords, and the Three of Swords is the interruption of truth's fact, logic, whatever, coming into burst an emotional bubble. Now, without overtly stating it, that does seem to be what the energies of the Tower and the Seven of Swords in reverse is creating. Like, oh goodness, truth has been revealed, and I don't like this very much because of what it implies about everything leading up to this point. But the Four of Swords then would be that point of integration where it's like, okay, well, this is the information. Now I have to find a way to get peaceful with that. But we got that Nine of Wands there. Again, another 9. We have both the idea that autonomy for your actions is being returned to you, but it's being returned to you because you chose it to be so. Like the Nine of Wands is a card of boundaries, and the boundaries, the issue of boundaries, the question of boundaries is always ours to deal with, right? We simply cannot rely on other people respecting the place where our boundaries should be, because I hate to say it, more often than not, people are going to spot that hole in your defences, and they are going to exploit it for their own personal gain. Somebody feels to me like they have been exploiting you for their own personal gain. And what October is offering to you is an opportunity to get those defences back up where they should be. Because be under no illusion, whatever this is, it really is quite shocking. It feels like it's very shocking, but it is built into that is an opportunity to redouble what should have been in place already, right? We have to be in the business of not just erecting boundaries, but also maintaining them. And the maintaining them, I think, is the most difficult thing. Because then it's not just about going, okay, well, if somebody does this, I'm going to walk away. It's the reality of somebody doing that, and you going, you just tried to cross a boundary there. Now I have to do a thing. And that thing is go somewhere else, do something else. Whether quite literally or, figuratively. But on top of that, we must also be constantly revisiting our boundaries to make sure that they are in the right place for the people that we are dealing with. Because the boundary that you have with someone who is a spouse, for example, is going to change even though the person is the same person, at least by name, right? Where that boundary should be is going to change if you got divorced, or it's going to change if there is any other intrusion into the status quo, as it should, right? So we need to go back and we're going to go, is this boundary actually in the right place, or should it be somewhere else? You know, backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards, which makes me feel like whoever this is who is responsible, it is someone kind of close to you, because I think anybody else would get incinerated by the boundaries that you've got, but this person's managed to get very, very close and then get in between the fence posts, if you will, and then be sat here kind of siphoning off your energy somehow. Now, we have also the Four of Cups, we have the Ace of Swords, and we have the Two of Wands. Now, I did say I felt like it was kind of more peaceful coming up, certainly more mentally peaceful, when we realise that we've, there's a bit of work to do on the boundaries, and then we do it. But what is quite interesting for me is what is showing up underneath here, because the Four of Cups, the card of rejection and rejecting and whatever, is here and active, mainly I think because of the exploitation that's going on here. I mean, it is an innate rejection of you and what you stand for. Like, you're helpful as long as your boundaries don't stop somebody from coming and taking what they want, right? And if you close those boundaries and they can't get what they want from you anymore, they're not interested. It's like that old saying, right? The only person who's going to complain about you erecting boundaries is the person who benefited from you having none. That seems like October. Here is an expression of that, which gives you then a new level of insight into the nature of this relationship, the nature of your boundaries, the nature of everything, full stop. Because the Ace of Swords is very good at putting things together. It's that epiphany moment. So although the problem may be outside of you, there is correspondingly an internal thing that needs a little bit of adjustment here, right? And this does change the way that you see everything, or how can it not? What I find the most fascinating, though, is that it leads you inexorably to a crossroads. There's something happening here that is asking you to change direction, not as a reaction to what has happened, but in response to what needs to change moving forwards. Now, we know that one of the things that needs to change is that the boundaries are going to get readjusted. They're going to be moved into a different position. And maybe, maybe you're going to be shoring up your boundaries against, quite a few people off the back of this. Because when you spend the time inspecting these things, sometimes you start to see holes and stuff. And you're like, right, okay, well, I'm going to fix all of this while I am here. But I do feel like it's putting a lot of things into such a different perspective. Remember that the Ace of Swords will bring that new perspective, new way of seeing things, new way of putting things together, right? That it's bringing you to a crossroads that you didn't expect to have to engage with. And now it's here. And the corollary of that is you were going this way and now there's some sort of deviation. The Tower is always a redirection. Sometimes it's a recalibration too, right? So we've got that big interfering energy of the Tower happening there. But then we're arriving at the Two of Wands, this crossroads energy, and we're like, okay, well, in light of everything that's shown up here and the recalibration that's happened in my thinking and my boundaries and all of these other things that we've spoken about, now I have a decision to make. Now I have a set of different options that I didn't have before. Now, what's really interesting about this is that Eight of Swords that we started off initially is the feeling that we have no options, we have no alternatives, there is no movement forward. And when we arrive over here with a different level of consciousness than we had over there, and suddenly doors are open, it's almost like this was supposed to happen in order to show you that you are never truly stuck. you are just working to, this is the message of it, faulty information. So if you can spend the time examining the level of information that's coming in and whether it is appropriate that someone gets to siphon off your energy, someone gets to drag you in to be of service, and that there is ever a point where you feel like you don't have a choice about that, that's your faulty information. This is very interesting because it does mark a turn. And I mean, how many twists and turns have there been in 2025 already, Taurus? There have been quite a few. But I think it's really, really interesting that so much of this is minor arcana too, because it's very much about the you solving this, right? You've got a big universal intervention going on right there, but it's changing the way that you see everything, and you're picking up the ball and running with it, which is what I love to see about you, Taurus. Is so good at this sort of stuff, right? It's a temporary setback, and it does feel like there's a discomfort with what comes up, but it's replaced much more swiftly than it would have been 10 years ago with a, okay, right, I'm recalibrating, I'm re-understanding, now I'm going to do it differently. Decisions, big decisions, I think, will be made at the end of October. Right, this seems like a really good place to stop here. I'm going to go to the extended. If you would like to join me over there, you're very welcome to do so. You can do that on Selfie, you can do that on Circle. I'd be delighted to see you in either place. Well, what we're going to do in the extended is take this energy here, and we're going to dig deeper into it and see what's going on here, because there have been quite a few signs who've had this message of a change of direction happening sometime in October, towards the end of October. When there are things that have been missed that come to light. You are definitely one of those, and I think that this is going to help you, give you a lot more information about where you're going moving forwards than you've probably had in quite a long time, which is awesome. So if this is where we part ways, that's absolutely fine. Have a wonderful month and all that. Whatever this is here, it's supposed to happen, you're supposed to see it, and you're supposed to respond in that way that you have learned how to do, because you are so skilled at this stuff now. Just change direction, pivot, because you can, All right, I'll leave it there. Know that I love you all very, very much, and I'll see you soon.